Hello, peace and blessings, everybody. This month looks potentially really wild. And before we start in with the usual astro report, I kind of want to set up some context around eclipses and eclipse seasons. They happen every 6 months, like a smattering of eclipses, usually a solar eclipse and 1 or 2 lunar eclipses. And this is like a sort of a karmic pulse in that every journey our Earth makes around the sun, we have a north node eclipse and a south node eclipse. And if we look back over the last 5 months since April 20th, 2023's new moon, and that was a north node solar eclipse, and that happened in late Pisces, conjoining Eris and square Pluto. And since that time, most of the new moons that we've had have been in major aspect to Pluto. And that's just the simple context I want to create. This has been, the entire last 5 months has been intense and deep, powerful months for many of us. They've been transformative months. They certainly have for myself. Winds of major change and total transformation have swept through. And here we are again for the start of another lunar cycle. And of course, Pluto is involved. So, this month starts with a new moon on September 14th or 15th, depending on where you are in the world. And that alignment of the sun and moon in the sky will be framed by the cusps of constellations Leo and Virgo, aligned very closely with fixed star Beta Leo, the nebula, the star at the lion's tail. So, falling on the Leo side of the Leo-Virgo cusp. So before we get into this is a form of Sidereal Astrology. I use the stars and the zodiacal constellations, so that's very different from Western mainstream practice. The ancient roots of astrology were like this, sort of mystical astronomy with no separation from the living world, the way the mainstream world, the way they do it today. And that astrology, modern Western astrology, tells us that the new moon happens 2/3 of the way through Virgo, while a glance at the sky tells us that this calculation just lacks a basis in the reality of the stars. Astrology means the language or logic of the stars. So we're going to go with Leo Virgo. Sun and moon are on the lion's tail star, the nebula, finishing Leo, just on the Virgo cusp. We'll talk about the archetypes of this cusp and the qualities of that star. They're joined by Mercury in Leo, and Mars and the South Lunar Node are in Virgo. We'll have a big pile up next month at South Node for a solar eclipse, so stay tuned till the end for that chart. Moving back, we can see Venus finishing up Cancer, and by the first quarter moon, she'll be in Leo. So, for the most part of this lunar cycle, we'll be seeing Venus in Leo as she's moving direct again. Uranus is retrograde, so moving back into Aries, right on the Taurus cusp. He'll cross that threshold this month and join with Jupiter there in the stars of the Ram. Eris in the North Node can join closely in Pisces, joined by Chiron, and ruler of Pisces, Neptune. Saturn is still in Aquarius. Pluto is here on the Capricorn Sagittarius cusp. So let's jump into the charts. This new moon is taking place on the 14th of September for me. It's about 10 p.m. on the 14th. For many people in the world, this will take place on the 15th of September. And before we get into the dynamics of the new moon, the sort of cosmic or stellar architecture of this month, I just want to talk about what a new moon means. The new moon is when the sun and moon come together, of course, and it's ironically a reflective time, a time when energies are low and things are very good for getting in touch within, for looking within and becoming aware of oneself. New moons tend to be times to plant seeds. And when we look at the chart, we're sort of looking at the natal chart of this lunar cycle. So we're looking here at the intention or the template, the map. We can think of this as what wants to happen. And on the Leo Virgo cusp, this is a very, very important cusp because we're wrapping up the traditional journey through Leo. We're in the very last degree here. So we're going to be dealing collectively. Sun and moon are consciousness and awareness. This is collective consciousness. And I'm not differentiating like sun is consciousness and moon is awareness. Like, no, it's different how they manifest. But sun and moon are consciousness awareness. Anyway, at this point in Leo, we're at our second new moon in a row in Leo. So we talked about Leo last month. And for now, I just want to say it's a journey of personal power. It's a journey of creative actualization and a journey of selfhood and purpose that the stars of Leo support. The sun will actually spend most of this month moving through Virgo. So I want to be very clear that even though we're in the last degree of Leo on an important Leo star, Beta Leo, second after Regulus, most of this lunar cycle will be Virgo season. And Virgo is a little bit harder to understand. On the surface, Virgo is logical and critical. One of the most valuable things that these stars do is to empower critical analysis. But if we look deeper, Virgo is about service to others, and it prepares us for Libra, where we meet others. We meet them and we learn to meet them as equals. So in Virgo, we meet others and the energy is to benefit them. We meet them from a humble position. We meet them from a lower position. In Leo, it's all about me and what I want and big king self. And in Virgo, it's all about lowering ourselves, humbling ourselves to provide what the group needs or what others need, or to make oneself useful in some way through service. In Virgo, we meet others and the energy is to benefit them. But this is a set of stars forever associated with the goddess, the Virgin Mother, the one who's spiritually complete, or in union with the fountainhead of the Godhead, just in union with the Godhead. So at the end of Leo, the story takes a turn, right? A sort of twist, you could say, and one of the things we're doing is shifting our sense of self orientation and turning our sense of self-importance. We're reorienting it. We're repatterning it and we're refocusing it at this. That's what this point in the sky, these degrees of the sky, that's what they support. Repatterning and refocusing the things that we've learned through our journey of selfhood and self-development, channeling them and putting them to the use of the greater good for the benefit of others. With Saturn still on Fomalhaut, we can definitely benefit here from including everyone in our thoughts and prayers, shall we say, in our intentions and our actions, more like it. And this is one of the things that Denebola, the star at the tail of the line, it's one of the things that it marks is seeing the world differently, very differently from the herd. It's a star associated with Uranian energies, and The star at the lion's tail, the nebula, is a star associated with teaching, with the mature expression of Leo. So with all this self-development and personal creative need to actualize the desires that fuel our conscious experience of ourselves. At the end, we take this twist and we start, and the way it usually manifests, the nebula is a teacher's star. So we have all this, and we have a great way of communicating. Leo's very charismatic, very big and boisterous. So it's great for teaching. And what we have, how can we be of service to others? Of course, sharing our knowledge, sharing our wisdom. And the nebula at the end of Leo is a star associated with seeing the world very differently. Just seeing the world differently from the herd. And in mundane astrology, in astrology affecting the whole world, or larger groups like nations and international, geopolitical. In a mundane astrology, the study of forces affecting large collectives, let's say that. The nebula has a reputation for making or breaking kings. Making or breaking kings is the reputation the nebula has. Big events, critical events associated with the passage of stars and planets, luminaries too, over the nebula. It's a confusing star associated with success in some instances and downfall in others. Elsbeth Eberton states about it, the tail of the lion has a Uranian nature, and it is supposed that in mundane horoscopes, major catastrophes are triggered off by it. Depending on the position and aspect to other stellar bodies in a personal horoscope, either preferment or fall are credited to this star. He says, at best, it will kick off exciting events. Reminds me of one of my favorite sayings, which is, may you be born in interesting times. Supposedly a Chinese curse. I don't know the veracity of that. So the sun and moon are well supported here, even on this kingmaker or breaker, this big major catastrophe star. They're trying to Jupiter, and that's excellent. They're trying to Uranus, and they're trying to Pluto, which excellent if you like change. We had Mars in this position at the end of Leo here last month. So if you remember, we had this grand trine, Uranus and Pluto. So the pot's already stirred pretty vigorously. We've already got a good boil headed into this month, and it looks like we're only going to gain momentum. We have a grand trine to Pluto on the cusp of Capricorn and Sagittarius, and completed by Uranus on the cusp of Aries, Taurus. So again, we have this grand trine of cusp energy, very twilight, very electric, very charged, and the planets involved are very charged. I don't want to repeat a lot of the information that I threw out there last month, but let's look out for change and transformation. There are 3 cusps. We talked about everything this electric energy represented. Highly electric, hard to have this much change and transformation portended without thinking, well, that could be stressful. So easy to see that these are stress signatures, even though it's in the form of a grand trine, a very auspicious formation. We do have the kite completing, get my artistic skills honed here, friends. We have the kite completed by Neptune and opposing sun and moon. And this is going to pit the left brain against the right brain, which is going to be a theme of, perhaps a theme of this month. It's going to generate confusion, especially around that humility, the humility that's needed, that sort of pivot that we need to make from Leo into Virgo. A lot of this month is gonna hinge, no pun intended, on how well we can pivot. change is going to probably make requests of us. And in the language of Pluto and Uranus, they're not negotiators. And the opposition in Neptune infuses the grand trine with a very visionary quality. We do have Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto in some tandem, some harmonic relationship here, and all relating to the sun and moon. So this could infuse the sun and moon with lofty feelings or visionary feelings. There could be genuine visionary experiences this month. And the only other aspect that's really happening relative to the sun and moon is this trine to Jupiter. And it's not a close trine, but it's still auspicious, and I mention it because Jupiter with Uranus is a very positive combination. So if Benevola excites some big splashy stuff on the world stage this month, Jupiter with Uranus is actually a strong indication via the trine of some situation of blessing in disguise. We've talked about the humanity that Fomalhaut demands and the integrity of vision that Fomalhaut, insists on if a person wants to keep the empowerment that this star tends to give very freely. It's a good time to examine our value systems, your thoughts, speech, intentions specifically, and a good time to make moves to be more inclusive. Who do you other? Who do you hate? Who do you despise? Who do you resent? Who just irks you? We've all got someone or someone's in our lives. Very few of us are really beyond the kind of polarized viewpoints that lead us to judge others. It's very rare to encounter people who can hold a view in which every being that they meet is truly an expression of that cosmic wisdom. So we can all move forward in this direction to become more open-minded, more inclusive, and to see not just the humanity, but perhaps even the sacred nature of those who we oppose or may oppose us. Yeah. We could also be able to sustain concentration very well on topics over this time. It could be a good time to study, and under this influence, it may carry through the month more powerfully with Mercury stationed direct at the new moon. We'll have to see. We can move from here to looking at Eris. Eris is making a very close conjunction to the North Node and a very annoying square to Pluto. It's worse than annoying. This is a really dangerous combo, and this is nothing new. This brought COVID in square. The square has been active since 2019. In the late 70s, they opposed, and we had AIDS, and I talk about the similarities between Trump and Reagan a lot, but we're likely to see the effects of COVID while the square supports this. So it's interesting to note that right now that square is at 3 degrees, and that's pretty close for a square that's been active since 4 years ago. But these are two slow-moving planets. And they're just closer now, as this thing winds down, that's COVID winding down. That's my hand. As this thing winds down, we will probably see spikes and dips and spikes and dips. And this closeness represents probably a point where the spikes are likely to be more prevalent. We get to look out for corrupt and neurotic expressions of chaos and spite. That's something that North Node and Eris are going to do together. And with Neptune opposing Sun and the Moon and Eris in Pisces, we really have to be on the guard this month, especially around 14th, 15th of September, for passive aggression. And I'm gonna extend that one out all month because we have a very aggressive full moon signature and a pretty ominous month just on the whole. So I'm gonna say that passive aggressive, that's a North Node Eris thing. And especially that's the Piscean. That's just the way Pisces expresses aggression, generally speaking. So it's a great month to be on lookout for those triggers in us. It's a great month to get triggered, but also to recognize, what is it in me that gives my inner peace away for that? Why am I triggered? Could I be not triggered? It's going to be a good month to just be very slow to snap back. Be just sort of quick to listen, slow to react, right? People are going to be agitated. They're going to be, this is going to be a highly stressful month for everybody. We know that because of the change and transformation that are going to affect the collective consciousness. And none of that's going to happen easily. Change and transformation don't happen without stress. It's just how life is. So we know this month's going to be stressful. People are going to be agitated, and it won't be personal. It won't be about you in most cases. So remember that what people say is going to say more about them this month than it says about you. That could be a real winning ticket to slip that in your hat, if you can respond not in like a spicy way to all that stuff, if you can respond out of wisdom or kindness or even just understanding, recognition, I think that's going to be a big win on a personal level. So the potential for this to be a highly charged and aggravated, volatile month could be, you could just happen on the street, like some guy could just yell at you, and the more you can be like, shh, it's not about me. It's not about me. Keep your cool. That's the way. That's the way, my friends. Another thing I notice is now that Mercury is stationed direct here, all the outer planets are retrograde, isn't it? And all the inner planets are direct. And all the outer planets are on one side of the sky, sort of in this area between let's just say Capricorn and Aries, just to be really vague. And all the inner planets are here moving through, with the exception of Venus in her journey through late Cancer. She'll be in Leo soon, and all the inner planets will be in this Leo, Virgo space of the sky. These degrees of the sky are going to resonate with everything that we've talked about Leo and Virgo. Service, humility, finding a way to be useful. And the outer planets are all going to be moving to a different beat. That's one thing. The conscious mind, symbolized by the inner planets, and the unconscious and subconscious mind, symbolized by the outer planets, are just going to kind of be, they're going to be doing two different things. And it could be a little bit of a distorting factor to that. Kind of the conscious pulse and the unconscious pulse are like syncopated, right? It might be no big deal. Sometimes retrogrades really spark important processes, necessary processes, and it's very good. So I don't fear a lot of retrograde planets, but I want to be aware that the retrograde motion is like a different thing. It's a different thing. So yeah, let's slow down. Let's think universally. Let's get ready for a lot of electric stress. Practice our breathing and our tools. Possible upheaval or warlike energies ahead, and this looks challenging beyond the usual. Regardless of what happens outwardly, especially involving the international geopolitical scene, we can employ these transits for personal growth. And that looks like, in this case, embracing change. Just not pushing back, not fighting it, entering into that humble flow state. That's that Pisces Virgo axis where we find the nodes, and in that humble flow state, just listening to our higher selves, listening to that spiritual wisdom that tells us that again, people may like you and people may hate you, and very, very, very little of that ever has anything to do with you. Most people, they're just in a world of their projections. It's dreadful. In a way, they only see what they expect to see, what they allow themselves to see, and what they want to see. Without lamenting the state of humanity and what it means to be in one of these meat suits and have a psyche. I just want to move on to the waxing quarter moon, reminding everybody to be very gentle with yourselves this month and be very gentle with others. I think that'll go a long way, that simple advice. And here we have the waxing quarter moon on September 22nd, 2023. And this is where we see the phase emerge, the energy of the pulse sort of come out, show its head. And this is a bit of a complicated chart, but the first thing I see is that based on the sun's position, it's just moved into Virgo at 6 degrees. That grand trine, Uranus, Pluto, Neptune with Sun is still intact. The same grand trine kite formation that affected new moon, still intact with Sun. The next thing I notice is that Mercury is just absolutely right on fixed star Delta Leo, Zosma. And Zosma is a star that has long been associated, long before Sigmund Freud or anyone put modern language to this. It's been associated with the victim-savior-perpetrator complex, a sort of triangular distortion of the psyche where people switch from being the victim of a certain kind of a traumatic behavior to being the savior. They then want to save others from this, to being the perpetrator. I mean, we've seen a little bit of this in the news recently. I can think of a couple cases. I don't want to give voice to any of that. But if you've been watching, if you've been paying attention, you may see these that the wiliest predators have sort of have the best disguise, and they come off as being like very against the kind of behavior that they themselves are perpetrating. You see this in politics constantly with it's just, yeah. Enough on that. The moon has moved around. That's what it does, friends. It moves around, and the moon is now at the galactic center. And this brings a lot of dark gravity into the scene, but also a lot of new hope in early Sagittarius. So we got some serious energy here. Matching Eris's North Node conjunction. We're now past. We're 12 minutes past that. And that conjunction is relating to the moon by trine. So we get some powerful, powerful dark energies here. Just a lot of gravity. I think the emergence of this cycle has the potential to be pretty powerful and dark. I think the stress and change will likely sustain. And I think it's just going to be a good unfolding time. These first couple weeks of the cycle to be focused on how we can use our experience as the path, as the journey, not to see anything that would happen or may happen as obstacles on the path, but to take it and work with it and really be able to digest that. We'll look at that very closely for the full moon, and that's actually that's a fitting segue. That's good enough for government work. We'll head to the full moon right now, because the intention of the full moon is really like the expression. It's like where the thing happens, like how it happens. Like if we're thinking about the new moon as the seed or the what wants to happen, we can think of the full moon as like how it's going to express, or maybe the fruit. Yeah, those metaphors work really well. So the first thing we see is with the nodes and with the sun and moon both, we have a Pisces Virgo axis. Now this is really going to increase Pisces Virgo activity. So let's understand that. That's always about the right brain, left brain. You know, I talked about that. That gets a lot of mention. Virgo wants to understand, right? Virgo wants to get it, but it needs Pisces to kind of simplify. It needs Pisces to inspire, and it needs Pisces to provide context. Okay, Virgo's an analysis engine. Virgo's an analyst, and without context, its data is meaningless. So Pisces is always helping Virgo by providing greater and greater context for its logical processes. And Virgo is always helping Pisces by giving meaning and distinction and discrimination and boundary within an ocean of sameness, which just gets a little meaningless if you're just floating around like it's all good. You know, Pisces without Virgo is like, oh, it's all love, man. And Virgo comes in and says, well, hold on, you know, maybe sometimes, but you know, let's be really clear about things. And it's important to recognize the distinction. Even Pisces has its own darkness, and part of that darkness is that it refuses to acknowledge or look at its own darkness. So we need Virgo in Pisces. We need Pisces in Virgo. And Pisces, especially with Neptune here, wants us to acknowledge that the cosmos is far beyond conscious. It is itself an ocean of consciousness. This thing's timeless, borderless, beginningless, endless. The cosmos we inhabit is the expression of the vast wisdom of uncountable cycles of universes blinking in and out. And this wisdom of Pisces, it reminds us that the construct is dreamlike. This construct is dreamlike, and it will respond to you if you invoke it. This is why we say it's conscious. It will respond to you if you invoke it. Virgo is the part of you that's already testing all that nebulous language and spiritual mumbo jumbo. Like, wait, is he right? Does that check? What about the Big Bang? Virgo crunches data. It categorizes things. It makes lists and spreadsheets and alphabetizes them for reference. Mars and Sun with South Node in Virgo. And they're going to emphasize the logical critical bent. And Neptune, Moon, Chiron, Eris, and North Node in Pisces is going to emphasize a spiritual, mystical bent. So for people who want to harmonize with the heavens, it's good to work with those themes as the main pillars of whatever you're doing, you know, reconciling that basic paradox, that left brain, right brain, that logic art or logic dreaming. Yeah, it takes some deep consideration to do that. And it's a great time to meditate. It's a great time to meditate. Always Pisces Virgo axis time is amazing for meditation. For humanity in large groups, we have a lot of polarization indicated. Sag is a larger universal, more universal set of stars, and anything moving through Sag has the distinct potential to affect things at large scale. We have polarization with Pluto relative to the lunar nodes here. And I want to take a little bit of time to talk about that because the eclipses coming up in October are going to emphasize that split. You know, eclipses are always around nodes. Pluto is especially resonant with the United States right now. So this split is going to be exemplified by life in the US. And that's because the United States Pluto was right here, a few degrees away when the United States was formed. So we're talking about United States natal Pluto. And because the US is so close to and actually in the degree of warp right now of a Pluto return that'll happen in 2024. We're seeing a lot of this polarization represented by Pluto square nodes expressed in United States society, especially in politics. Eris and Pluto and Mars are an octave triplet. They're higher octaves of each other. I'm going to come back to that a bit later. I think I'll be able to say a little bit more that's helpful about what that means if we just break down the kind of basics, the kind of brass tacks. This Mars with south node, Eris with north node, and T squared by Pluto is potentially a violent signature, with the nodes having a really distorting effect. They have a corrupting, perverting effect, and Mars and Eris are both sort of eclipsed. And Pluto divides and tears apart. So when he T-squares something, it really gets turned up. Now, I said they were octaves of each other. Mars is a lot of things. Mars is assertive and aggressive, and we talk about drive and motivation, and our goals and plans, our sporty, adventurous side. Mars is the conscious desires that drive the life forward. Mars is the conscious mind level desires. In any chart, Mars is that. Pluto is a higher octave of Mars and is not just the soul level unconscious desires that drive our evolution personally, in groups, as a species. Yeah. Pluto, for all we talk about its tendencies, its controlling, manipulative, powerful tendencies, it's rich, it's a wealth giver, it's a life taker, then it'll regenerate, it's a phoenix, it's Pluto's quite an archetype, and we talk about all that. But Pluto is the unconscious desires. And Eris is chaos, just the primordial impulse. These are like beyond survival level impulses, but Eris is just I almost wouldn't try to understand Eris too far beyond being chaotic and hidden. There's a lot of subterfuge in Eris. And if you think of Mars as war, violence, and Pluto as manipulation or coercion, Eris as like spy and intelligence and kind of that sort of level of intrigue around the destabilization of groups. Eris famously working with Pluto to destabilize internally, and Eris most famous in mythology for her role relative to Mars in starting the Trojan War by a sort of ninja kind of subterfuge act. She a goddess in full knowledge of her own goddesshood, was dressed very small like an ordinary person and just kind of ninja'd her way outside the party, and then tossed this weapon in disguise weapon in disguise into the party, which was actually like received rather well for a weapon in disguise. And eventually that all started the Trojan War, which was a civil war. So we have Eris distinctly and not without good reason associated with civil war. So like Pluto, Eris divides and conquers. Pluto does it coercively and very manipulatively. Eris does it like an absolute ghost, like a ninja, like a you know, sometimes you don't even see the tracks. You don't know it was her. All right. So another thing that makes this potentially violent, besides the nodes corrupting and perverting and distorting things, is the angles. The square here is going to express as obstacles. That's just ugly. Let's redraw it. Okay, the squares here are going to express as obstacles, and the oppositions are going to express as polarized tensions, paradoxes to reconcile. And before we get into how to use this, before we get into what we can do with this, regardless of what the world does with it, I want to talk about some of the other formations. The chart always works together holistically, so we'd be a little bit remiss. Now Mercury is on the nebula, and we'd be a little bit remiss if we didn't mention that, because this grand cross, this Pluto, Uranus, Mercury Grand Cross is still intact. We still have all these cuspy electric energies of change and transformation and stress. And now it's affecting our minds. It's affecting the collective conversation. Yeah, now it's really happening. And, for some of us, this is going to radicalize things. Uranus, it's going to intensely, powerfully radicalize things. We could be thinking in ways like that. For others, it's going to delude or confuse us. We also have Neptune here, opposite to Mercury. It would make us very psychically sensitive at this time, but we could be getting messages we really want to fact check if possible and double check. With individuals, it's always a case of personal relationship. Some people will have a very good, strong, well-supported Pluto, and he'll work well for them. And for others, Pluto is difficult, represents a challenge, maybe even a nemesis, right? There are other aspects between natal and transits to consider, and this is why I keep it really broad and vague for the most part, because I'm talking very generally about the energies that'll be in play, sort of under the surface for everybody. Everybody's process will be driven by, this sky. It'll be reflecting karmically the inner worlds that we all inhabit. Will be reflecting the outer world that we all inhabit. And so this sky here is going to be different for everyone. Other people could be very artistically inspired by these high energies, like very, very, very artistically inspired. With Venus here, there's an opposition to Saturn, which could suppress a little bit of creative impulse. And I'd say push through that if you have the desire to create at this time. For yet others, we could have really brilliant insights. That's a Mercury-Uranus function too, into the process of change, into the processes of change or transformation. We could see new personal truth. We could develop new value systems. We really could. Like I said, everything around inclusivity with Saturn on Fomalhaut for the new moon, everything around how big is your concentric circles? Have you realized yet that humanity is one organism and that you're a cell in it? Have you realized that? All this comes to the table this month. So, some of us will be thinking about art, and others will be thinking about how their lives are being torn apart. But all this will be in the air, the ethers, this electricity, especially the powerful relationship between Uranus, Pluto, and now Mercury for the full moon, as the energy between sun and moon kind of peaks, hits its high point September 29th, 2023. And we're still dealing with the situation of inner planets being direct, outer planets being retrograde. This sort of split in the sky could reflect a split in the psyche. And the split might represent itself to us like on an individual level as us being through with the past, right? But the past is not through with us. We can understand this cycle of time is dealing with deep echoes in the collective consciousness, right? Things that are yet unresolved. And that may present directly or indirectly a really powerful drumbeat to our deep mind, while to our collective experience, we could be out of tune with that, right? We could want something different or miss the point altogether. We could miss a moment to respond to the call to what's being asked of us, which is only that we understand with all these retrogrades that we could be taking a little bit proverbial step back in the 2 steps forward, 1 step back maneuver, right? We could be forced to wrap up loose ends of prior processes before we move on to future processes, or just deal with our own deep past in a healing way. This is a great time to resolve trauma. Great time. So just to wrap all this up, put it in one place, we've got powerful stress signatures with the electric charge of the cusps really activated with that grand trine. Again, Uranus, Pluto, now Mercury. And that could correlate with pivotal or fated events in the world. Again, that star, Denebola, known for lighting the world stage up, making or breaking kings. And for you watching at home, the important thing is really how you use these transits to further your own personal journey, right? Right. Like, it doesn't matter what the world's all about. We can take this and understand it, right? We can take this and understand it like Mars square Pluto is, on the one hand, sure, this is war and this is control and coercion, but Mars square Pluto, it could choose through freedom of choice to face its deepest rage and fear and overcome them. Eris square Pluto could likewise master its own inner darkness and illuminate its blind spots. And Eris opposite Mars is an easy one. It could be much more interested in wise strategy than in confrontation. With South Node Mars, we can give up the direct approach, the forward skull bashing, hey, it's my way or the highway, and we can take on an approach. Don't take on a passive aggressive approach. If you change and you decide to work with your aggression this month, don't look out for passive aggressivity. But no, seriously, if you're going to make a change to the way you're channeling or organizing or handling your aggression, the best way to express Eris North Node is wise strategy. And with Chiron supporting here and South Node on a very auspicious star, we haven't talked about it much, but South Node's on Spica, very nice, very good star. There's a chance to engage these energies wisely with great blessing. And even if the leaders of the world and the masses that support them are violent fools in the face of these winds, that doesn't mean you have to be. There's always an angle to liberation. And like I said, facing our fears, facing our darkness, and organizing ourselves away from brute force, the kind of blunt, traumatic reasonings that some people do to get what they want. I think we could look at this cycle as an opportunity to improve on those impulses within ourselves. Yeah. All right. with that, I'd like to move on to the waning quarter moon. All right, let's move on. The waning quarter moon happens October 6th, and the intention of this phase is to kind of wind it down, to retrospect, retroflect, look back, see what worked, what didn't, incorporate the things that worked, drop what didn't, and start to prepare for the next new moon. And the next new moon is going to be really relevant. I talked about that at the beginning of the video, and we're just going to glance at the chart, but whew, yeah, it's a chart. But here we are on the 6th of October. We are not at the next new moon yet. We're at the last quarter moon. We have Venus on the sun-moon midpoint, and Venus is making semi-square to sun and moon. That could impede self-appreciation at scale. That could create, with its opposition to Saturn here, a little bit of a difficulty appreciating ourselves, a little bit of a difficulty appreciating the process we've just been through, and might be hard. Again, the strength of this cycle is in how well we can pivot. There's going to be a pivot. You can't get Pluto and Uranus and Sun and Moon together on the nebula and think that this isn't going to do something dynamic. So this could be hard to integrate, friends. This is a sign that something's actually going to come along this month that's robust, potentially robust, hard to process. We do have Mars past the South Node. That conjunction is now about 30 minutes, half a degree past. And I think we could have difficulty integrating. Yeah, just difficulty integrating this one. Saturn opposite Venus implies a longer process. Just a longer process. Delays in being able to see the good. It could be hard to see the silver lining around the clouds of this month. And now, holy heck, next chart, we're going to open the next new moon. And there it is, friends. Bam, we've got eclipse season. It's an annular solar eclipse. We've got Eris with the north node. We have Chiron with the north node. We have Mercury, Sun, Moon, and Mars with the south node. So all the inner planets minus Venus are eclipsed, and we do have Eris and Chiron with north node. Venus is here uneclipsed, but opposite Saturn. Opposite Saturn for this one. And we'll explore the alchemy of all that next month. Oh, yeah. If you're interested in learning more about me and my work, my approach, if you'd like to consult with me, hit me up here, or you can send email to oneskyastrology@gmail.com. There's going to be a third dialogue series coming soon. Ooh, yeah. It's going to involve Kim Nosworthy Lovelace, one of my favorite astrologers in the constellational tradition. She has gotten the call to go her whole own way. She's developed a system, a true lifetime sky system that's uniquely hers. It's fascinating work, but we have something really, really, really special for you. Actually, I'm excited. I want to say something like really great, but it's kind of flabbergasting. I think you'll be excited, and I encourage you to keep your eyes open for it. That'll be in the near future. And then in the recent past, we had a little bit of a chance for the gang, the round table, to sit down and get another video out. We're taking a look at the next 5 years of United States astrology, those changes. Pluto, Jupiter, Uranus, and Chiron make returns in the next 5 years. That's United States astrology. So they all come back to their natal point of origin. Pluto, Jupiter, Uranus, Chiron, and more happens in the next 5 years to the United States. But you have to watch the video to learn all about that. Yeah, check us out. Sidereal Revolution is a Facebook group. There's a lot happening there relative to constellational astrology, people who use the zodiacal constellations. We are in particular about how you do that. Some of us are True Lifetime Sky. Some of us are, International Astronomy Union boundaries. Some of us are Athens Chimenti's system, the zodiac, his true sidereal astrology, and people with Walter Berg's Zodiac 13. I myself, my own thing is modified based on my own astronomical calculations at this point, and I don't have a name for what I do. It's just constellational astrology, and all of us get down at Radical Astrology on Facebook. So if you do that Facebook thing, check us out. All right, friends. Thanks for watching. Bless you all. Goodbye.